converting into in the first place.
And as you start to watch all four of them in operation in this crucial period where the party is gathering, to what extent are they trying to set the scene in the hope that they'll be in the last two and therefore making their appeal to the Conservative Party membership as well as their MPs?
That bit is absolutely key. What's slightly bizarre about the scheduling of this conference is that there are still four candidates in it. So activists here can see all four, but they're then trying to guess which two they might actually get to pick from, because MPs in the next couple of weeks will eliminate a couple of them, leaving a final pair to be decided by the party membership. So there's a whole series of events taking place here in the next couple of days. 1,000,001 events to attend. They're all appearing on the stage. Kemi Badenoch and Tom Cuban today, Robert Cummins and James Clement tomorrow, all of them on Wednesday. 1,000,001 media appearances, including on this programme too, as they try and make the case that they are the Conservative future. There's a sense here, there's a euphemistic concrete slogan over walk past me on one of the doors here: review and rebuild, it says, after July Waterton. It takes some comfort, Conservatives here, from the early wobbles of the new government, but at the same time there's a deep awareness of just how big a challenge they face, not least the strategic challenge. The candidate approach to the threat on the right from the UK at a time when the Democrats have also swallowed a few fingers their votes as well.
The person you haven't mentioned, and I know why, because he's already said his farewell to the party, is the actual current leader of the opposition, Rishi Sunak.
Yeah, so he did a little turn yesterday. So this is a very different party conference in the kind of format we're used to, where you hear from each other from that we build up to a leader's speech and the ticker tape falling from the roof and all that kind of stuff. This time, Rishi Sunak seems to be, but still, former, but still current leader of the Conservative Party. Yeah, came on in the middle of yesterday afternoon, doing a kind of thank you routine. It had a kind of end-of-term disco kind of vibe to it, playing with the party to end the division, the backbiting and the squabbling. That's what's going on at exactly the point that he was talking. He had to be persuaded to stick around for as long as he has been as Conservative leader to give the party this scope for a long leadership race. We've got another month or so before he hands over the baton to whoever his successor is of those four at the beginning of November.
I will be joining you with my own reading case for the programme tomorrow and Wednesday. Thanks, Chris.
It is now 25 minutes past 7 for those of us who were forced to be at Old Trafford yesterday. It is the morning after a rather gloomy night before. Carthy can give you a more dispassionate view of what's happening at Manchester United.
Forced to be at Old Trafford, yes.
Well, you know how it is.
Yes, well, there is, I think, a problem for United at the moment, isn't there? They've got renewed pressure on their manager, Erik ten Hag, after they lost 3-0 to Tottenham at Old Trafford yesterday. The United captain, Bruno Fernandes, was shown a red card just before half-time too. Aston Villa missed out on the chance to go joint top of the table after being held to a 2-2 draw by Ipswich. And Rangers beat Birmingham 1-0, while Manchester City had their first win of the season in the Women's Super League. Chelsea on top of the WSL table, with Manchester United in second place. Cricket, and Australia's men beat England in the deciding one-day international at Bristol yesterday, with a 49-run win by the Dutch to the Stern method. I've been speaking to the former England cricketer Stephen Finn, who's part of the Tasman special team, about Australia's 3-2 series win over England.
There are certain positives to take from it. Harry Brook played brilliantly. Ben Duckett was served notice that he's very capable of batting at the top of the order. Adil Rashid is still an absolute master, and there's exciting young players being brought through that they came up against the world champions, who even with their backs against the wall fought back and they ended up winning this series. So it's an entertaining series and a nice way to finish up the international summer.
And England have played T20 one-day series against Australia, who are just matches are the world champions at the 50-over game. What do you think they need to work on? You mentioned some of the things that impressed you. What about the other side?
They're in a period of regeneration, I think, this 50-over team. They've gone from being world champions in 2019 to being knocked out in the 2023 World Cup in the first round. So they're in this period now where they need to find their identity, and that needs to be built around the players that they believe are going to be key components over the course of the next 3 or 4 years in that build-up to the next World Cup.
That was the last game of the international summer for England's men. They reached the T20 World Cup semi-finals. They had series wins against Pakistan, West Indies, Sri Lanka, lost this series just now to Australia. That is a lot of cricket to discuss, obviously, but from what you've seen this summer, having them been building in the right way ahead of the Champions Trophy, which is coming up next year?
Yes, they have. I think they've given a good account of themselves in this series. The first two games they didn't play that well, but the third and fourth games they did, and that should be their mantra and the way that they should go about playing this 50-over format, built around that strong middle order and the power that the lower middle order has. So yeah, there are certainly signs across all formats this summer that English cricket's moving in the right direction again, but there are sterner tests to come.
And some of these players will be heading straight to Pakistan for the Test series that starts next Monday. That's a pretty tough change of conditions, isn't it?
Yeah, chalk and cheese, I think you'd say. 10 degrees here in Bristol and hacking down with rain, and I think 40 degrees and clear blue skies in Malta this time next week. So yeah, swiftly off to the airport, a couple of days of acclimatisation, and straight into a test which will be challenging.
It's been an interesting summer of cricket. I appreciate your time as always. Stephen Fitton, thank you.
Pleasure.
Ireland's men had their first T20 international win over South Africa, winning by 10 runs in Abu Dhabi. In the Rugby Union, England's women started defence of their WXB title with a 61-21 win over the USA in Vancouver. This morning, Ireland have beaten New Zealand 29 points to 27. Bath in second place in the Rugby Union's Premiership after a 20-15 win over the Leicester Tigers. And Brighton will set up a Super League playoff semi-final against Hull KR, while Lee face Wigan Warriors in the other semi-final, and the Warrington coach, Sam Burgess, is my guest in the next hour. Thank you very much, Kathy. On BBC iPlayer, where's James? Your brother spent day in and day out at some grisly murder scene or other. Until 3 nights ago, when he didn't come home at all, when his twin goes missing.
James didn't just that. He left breadcrumbs, coded messages.
Can a puzzle Fossey solve the biggest conundrum of his life?
I'm impersonating a police officer.
Yes, but each other.
That's really not a legal loophole. You think it is?
Starring David Mitchell and Anna Maxwell Martin. Lovely.
Bit awkward, really. I think I might just have solved a murder.
Watch on BBC iPlayer.
Quick look at the weather here. I was complaining about the rain here in Salford, but I think it's raining as much rainfall on the shelf in London today. But apparently in the southwest of England and in Scotland, rain will be lighter action.
Today on Radio 4 from Salford and London, we're James Hastings. The Israeli military has carried out more airstrikes in Lebanon, widening preparations against militant Hezbollah. It targeted flights in the Bekaa Valley in the eastern country overnight. Early this morning, the Israeli Air Force is certain it attacked another group, the Popular Front for the Liberation of Palestine, which said that 2 of its leaders had been killed. Hospitals and shelters in Lebanon are reportedly increasingly struggling to cope as the conflict continues. In the past half hour, new figures have shown the UK economy grew by 0.5% in the second quarter. The National Statistics said that was slightly down on original estimates of 0.6%. The UK's last coal-fired power station closes at midnight. Operation Cease at Ratcliffe Shaw in Nottinghamshire, the UK will become the first major economy to have stopped using coal. It's estimated that the country has burned through 4.6 billion tonnes of fuel since Thomas Edison opened the first plant to generate electricity in London in 1822. And the final blast event of the British steelworks will reportedly also cease production today and bring an end to the central traditional steelmaking in the town. Targeted move to a greener form of production will cut carbon emissions at the site 90%. More than 2,500 employees have been made redundant last year. A far-right political party has won the largest share of votes in Austria's general election for the first time since the Second World War. The Freedom Party, which is led by Herbert Kickl, won just over 29%. It work sufficient majority to form a government. The minimum price at which a unit of alcohol can be sold in Scotland goes up today from 50 pence to 65. The increase means that a can of lager will cost at least £1.30. Alcohol recovery charities say more still needs to be invested in prevention services to help people. James, thank you very much. It is just 7:30. When the last remaining blast furnace in Port Talbot stops this afternoon, it will end the traditional method of steel making in South Wales. It's a moment of industrial as well as social history and one of uncertainty, because the replacement of electric furnace is thought to be 4 to 5 years away from coming into operation, and we know that will employ around 500 people, while more than 2,000 jobs are being lost now. In July, as Labour came to power, the new business secretary said the government would press the plant owners into job guarantees in return for tax the Port Albert side last year.
Well, we've left the calm of the control room behind. Almost certainly here behind me, we're in a place that is certainly not calm. We've come right into the centre of all of it. It looks like kind of, I mean, it really genuinely feels like an industrial landscape transferred to a huge molten hot planet.
Well, let's speak now to Stuart Phillips. He's the shift manager at the Steelworks. Someone who's worked for Tata Steel for the last 27 years. Good morning, Stuart.
Good morning.
It must be a difficult morning for you, I imagine. What do you know about your own job?
Well, yes, it's a very sad time, really. Rather certainly here. With respect to my own job, it's still questionable. We're still awaiting to find out if or where we will be redeployed and what the final sort of figures and opportunities of the voluntary redundancy look like.
What are you hoping for?
I'm hoping to stay, to be honest. I've been part of the company for 27 years. It's all I've known. I've left school and I've worked my way up through the ranks to where I currently am now. So I'm hoping to remain within the business and just await some confirmation I think in the near future of what that looks like.
Do you mind me asking, Stuart, what stage of life you're at? What are your commitments? Children, mortgage? How much longer would you want to be working for?
So I'm currently a single father. I've got two daughters. One who lives with me, she's older. He is 19 actually tomorrow. And my daughter Willow, who's 3, got a mortgage and the same commitments I think as everybody else. They've got car finance, etc. And you know, a lot of other outgoings really, the same as everybody else within business.
So you're watching this, or you will be watching this afternoon, the blast furnace shut down without knowing really anything about how long you might still be employed at Tata Steel for.
Yeah, well, I'm actually in work at the moment now, and we're starting the shutdown or blowdown of the furnace has already commenced. So my current role will be here in capacity up until March, and you know, the future of that at the moment still not 100% clear. So
it's not a significant investment, £1.25 billion. I think it does provide hope for the future of steelmaking, which will be done in a different way in future. And that's really, we've got to recognise that there was always going to be a change. The carbon emissions clearly, and the fact that there's going to be an introduction carbon border adjustment mechanism meant that things would have had to change. The real problem is that the transition wasn't planned in the way that it should have been planned.
Elena Morgan, First Minister of Wales, thanks very much.
It's now 19 minutes to 8.
Chris Christopherson, who's died at the age of 88, once said he wanted to bring respect to country music. He was born in 1936 in Texas. He went to Oxford as a Rhodes Scholar, and then from 1965 he pursued music as a career, writing songs including Help Me Make It Through the Night and Me and Bobby McGee, later making an award-winning performance in the original A Star Is Born. I've been speaking to Joseph Hudak, Senior Music Editor at Rolling Stone.
When you talk about Chris Christopherson, yes, he's a singer, but above all else, he was a songwriter. Chris had this ability to just get into the heart of human emotion and human vulnerability, and particularly loneliness. There's something about the way that Chris could write about this idea of not having anyone there to support you or any sense of structure that no one else could. We were talking a bit about some of his songs, and one of them that is really gets to the heart of this is Sunday Morning Coming Down.
Woke up Sunday morning with no way to hold my head. That didn't hurt.
And Sunday Morning Coming Down was most famously recorded by Johnny Cash. but I would argue that Christopherson's version is even more powerful.
Another of his songs that became very well known is Me and Bobby McGee. Did you mind when his work became much better known when it was covered by others?
No, I don't think so at all. In fact, from what I understand, he didn't hear Janis Joplin's version of Me and Bobby McGee, which of course is the most famous one, until after Janis passed. And I believe he said he was walking all over Los Angeles just in tears, and he could barely listen to the song without breaking up. When you're a songwriter here in Nashville, the Nashville songwriting community is so based around writing songs, not just for yourself, but for others, right? The community is about sharing those songs, and you don't particularly own a song per se. So if that song resonated with someone else, Christopherson was more than happy to have them recorded.
Help Me Make It Through the Night is another one of his beautiful songs. Do you see him as a pioneer of Nashville?
Oh, without a doubt. Yeah, I mean, we've said it before, but Nashville is really a songwriting town. There's a phrase that they use here saying, they say it all begins with a song. And that's really what is at the heart of this community. And that's what Christopherson is like the North Star in that respect. I mean, when we talk about Help Me Make It Through the Night, I mean, everyone from Jerry Lee Lewis to Tina Turner, and most famously Sammy Smith recorded the song, and she had a #1 with it. But Chris's is just so hard to beat.
Take the ribbon from your hair. Shake it loose, let it fall.
The thing about Christopherson's voice is he wouldn't even admit he was not a good singer. He was not on par with his Highwaymen cohorts, and the Highwaymen were Willie Nelson, Johnny Cash, Waylon Jennings, and Christopherson, and his voice was croaking, right? And when he kind of uttered those sounds in a song like Help Me Make It Through the Night, you really kind of worry that he may not see the morning light. That's what that song is about.
So, pioneer of Nashville, but is it the case
Yeah.
that he first started writing songs and performing while he was in Oxford, a Rhodes Scholar at Oxford?
Isn't that amazing? Yeah, Chris Christopherson he's the epitome of the Renaissance man, and we could even say the American Renaissance man. Country singer, songwriter, soldier. He was a helicopter pilot. Obviously, he became a heartthrob for his roles in film. But yes, he was a Rhodes Scholar, and I think that, that honor just kind of elevated his songwriting to a different level. He was a true poet, right? We call him one of the outlaw poets in Nashville. And I think that his songwriting transcended just basic lyricism to make it poetic and to make it part of the American vernacular of poetry.
One of his acting roles was in A Star Is Born.
When Barbara, I think I saw this, she tweeted this today after Chris passed. She said she first saw him perform at the Troubadour Club in Los Angeles, and right away she knew that he had what she wanted for the script that she was developing. It was a starting point. He was on stage at the Troubadour strumming his guitar barefoot, very much, the folky, hippie kind of troubadour at that time. But, I think acting was just another part of who he was. It was just another facet of the man that is Chris Christopherson. I don't think it's anything that he pursued any harder, per se, than he did songwriting.
Joseph Kubek from Rolling Stone. Thank you very much.
14 minutes to 8 now, time for Thoughtful Today. Speaking this morning with the Reverend Canon Dr. Jennifer Smith, Superintendent Minister of Wesley's Chapel in the DC. Bishop, good morning.
Good morning. Try as we might to find good news this Monday, I can count half a dozen crises that might make my life and yours more dangerous today than yesterday. Even if the pictures of dust and rubble were not taken in British communities, and the recorded voices of trauma-scarred families not all recorded in British towns, the world does not feel a safe place right now. Fear itself is corrosive. It puts me in a perpetual fight-or-flight mode. I either get paralyzed by complexity and do nothing in the face of evil, or I make bad decisions and end up causing more harm. and to the Feast of Michael and All Angels, which was celebrated in Western churches yesterday. The story comes from the Revelation, that dream-soaked book of apocalyptic visions at the end of the Christian scriptures. War broke out in heaven, we're told. The archangel Michael grappled with the devil, defeated him, and threw him to earth, where he goes about his business with great wrath because he knows his time is short. Folk tradition goes further, saying that when he fell, the devil fell into a blackberry bush. Torn by the thorns, he cursed the bush, as he would. That's why we're told blackberries picked after the 30th of September have been sour to taste ever since. Today, I call on Michael for help in those moments when the hair on the back of my neck rises walking into a dark alley, or I need to open a letter from my employer or my doctor or turn on the news. Michael is still fighting evil, we're taught, still protecting the vulnerable and working for the restoration of peace. Methodists, like me, do not do as much as some Christian traditions with angels, and when we do, some of us lean heavily on metaphor. But along with 40% of us in Britain, I find I do believe in angels. Incidentally, that figure is apparently higher than when the question was first asked in 1939. Nevertheless, no angel stepped in to stop the bombs, the drone attacks, the rockets that have already fallen today. No angel held back her hurricane wind or the flood last week. I often pray that God will prevent us from doing greater harm. The role of angels is also to restrain and inspire us to be better ourselves, and in how we respond to days like today. A belief in angels cuts across our fears. We're told that in making space for the stranger at our table, we may yet welcome angels unawares and find ourselves part of the solution, not the problem, every day.
That's Thought for the Day with the Reverend Canon Dr. Jennifer Smith. The time is 11 minutes to 8.
Thousands of hopeful students poured into the city of Manchester this weekend for University Open Day, which was, I suspect, a tad more rewarding than my visit to this city to go to Old Trafford. It does look, though, as if those students, if they get a place, will have tough news coming. The tough news that tuition fees that they and students all over the country will pay are to be increased, and will head to the psychologically significant barrier of £10,000 a year. A new report by Universities UK, which speaks for institutions right across the country, is calling for fees to rise with inflation, which won't please two of our listeners. Anna and Chloe questioned university value for money when they reported for the programme earlier this month. Their children, Pearl and Theo, both dropped out of university after their first year. And they explained to us why when they spoke to our education correspondent Vanessa Clark.
I actually found it quite difficult. Things started piling on top of each other, stress, debts, everything, and then that just feeling kind of carried on, and I started thinking, why am I going to end up paying a fortune for all of this when I'm not enjoying it? It's a big leap, like no one's coming up to me and being like, oh, do you not have this? It's a bit daunting to step up to, I reckon, especially for me, as a person that struggles to ask for help anyway. So yeah, I don't know exactly what it is.
I think a lot of people in the first term have that wobble and think, oh, is this actually for me? But no one actually really talks about it.
It feels like there was just a bit of a disconnect between expectation and reality for you.
Well, the expectation is just that you get this piece of gold after 3 or 4 years, and it's going to lead you onto better things in life. I think there needs to be a lot more reality discussion of what university can do. For me, it's a debt too big to put yourself through.
A debt too big to put yourself through. Theo and Vanessa there. Listening to that, the man who welcomed all those thousands of students here to Manchester, Professor Duncan Iverson, a Canadian who studied in Britain but spent 20 years in Australia, where he was until recently Deputy Vice Chancellor at the University of Sydney. He is the new Vice Chancellor of one of the country's leading universities, the University, of course, of Manchester. Welcome to the debate. Let's deal straight away with that idea. There's simply not value for money, even at the current rate, let alone at a higher rate.
So look, I mean, obviously these are decisions that each student has to make for themselves, but, you know, we welcomed, I think, close to 24,000 students on the campus on Saturday, and they were excited about their future. I think every decision a student makes is for themselves, but the value that universities offer is still, I think, overwhelmingly good, right? We know that something like 90% of future jobs are going to require a degree of one kind or another. We know that the earnings that people make after doing universities is still 35% more than if they didn't study. So if you learn more, you earn more. But having said that, of course, universities need to constantly think about the quality of the teaching they're offering, the quality of the support they provide their students, and that's something we're really focused on.
And is that why you, along with other vice-chancellors, the people who run our universities, say we simply have to put fees up?
Look, it's more about stabilizing the system. So the fees have been frozen essentially for 12 years. So 12 years of no adjustment at all in one of the main sources of revenue into the higher ed system. So this is just part of, I think, a package of things that we need to do. It's just providing some stability so that institutions can plan and provide the kinds of support and education they want to provide. Then we have to work ourselves on ensuring that we're improving, that we're providing better support, that our education is the kind of education that families and students expect. So this is just one part of a complex puzzle.
Just before we talk about the rest of the puzzle, there will be some people shouting at the radio saying, we simply cannot pay that sort of amount. We cannot expect students to live with that much debt. And 10,000, as you who've studied in the humanities department, there is not a lot more than 9,900 whatever, but it feels like it. It feels like a psychological barrier.
Look, I understand where that's coming from, but over the course of one's life and thinking about the way in which people pay back their tuition fees over the course of their life, we think it is something that is manageable, right? You're not paying fees up front. You're not going to pay it back if your salary is at a certain threshold. But having said that, as I said, the evidence is overwhelming. If you learn more, you earn more.
Now, why are you saying, as you did in an article for the FT when you started this new job at Manchester University, at Manchester, let's not simply talk about crisis management. Let's have a much bigger topic.
Absolutely. Look, the government's got a huge, ambitious agenda for the future about economic growth, inclusive growth, skills. Universities need to be part of that. So there is a bit of a challenge right now about stabilizing the funding of the higher education system. That's what linking tuition fees to inflation is about. I should say, though, that I believe that we shouldn't link tuition fees to inflation unless also we bring back maintenance grants for the most disadvantaged students. We should not be providing any more barriers than there already are for our most disadvantaged students. So the two go together. But this has to be part of a bigger package, right? If we want the university system to contribute to enabling the country to flourish, to get better, and we need to be part of that.
And you've been inspired by something you saw when you were in Sydney, which you were there for, what, 20 odd years? What is it that the Australian government that this new British Labour government should be inspired?
Sure, I mean, everyone will groan when we say not another review, but there was something called the Accord, where it was universities, business, government, trade unions, all the key players in the higher education system got together and thought about the future of the higher ed system over a 12-month period. And out of that came a vision for higher education in Australia. Now, of course, politics is complicated, government has to make decisions, but that long-term vision, I think, is incredibly valuable. It feels to me that we need something like that now in the UK, whether it's an accord, whether it's a review, whether it's a series of conversations. The blueprint that Universities UK released today is a fantastic start to that conversation.
And is Manchester a model? Because when I first met you, I think along with virtually everybody else you met in this city, you said, what on earth, leaving the sunshine and beaches of Sydney to come to the grimy rain of Manchester for? Do you think there's something special?
There is that. Look, your listeners are expecting to say this, but it's true. There is something special about Manchester. It is unique globally, and that is the collaborative culture in Manchester between the universities, the city government, the regional government, industry, community associations. You know, with Eddie Burnham, Bev Craig leading the way, there's a fantastic collaborative culture in the city. And the universities are part of that. We see ourselves as an anchor institution in the city, contributing to the goals of the city, including not just in the city of Manchester, but in the other boroughs as well, and in the wider Northwest. I think that's unique. I've never seen any university system, and here I include my colleagues at Salford and NMU and elsewhere. We're constantly engaged and working together and trying to think, how do we improve this place?
In some way, I think you're saying, aren't you, that universities have to stop being seen as people bleating.
Correct.
Whinging, demanding more money. They have to offer something.
Absolutely. Look, and I think we have an enormous amount to offer, but you're absolutely right. How can universities contribute to improving the lives of people in the United Kingdom? That should be our first question. That should be our challenge that we take on. And I think we're doing something really special in Manchester to do just that.
Professor Duncan Ives, Vice Chancellor of the University of Manchester, thank you very much indeed. Sadly, can't do anything about the weather for you.
We can get the details of exactly that now with Helen.
Good morning to you both. Hello there. It is wet again. We have had a wet
Wales, some places having 3 or 4 times their average rainfall. All those tallies will be totted up today to know exactly how wet it's been. But you just need to look out the window again this morning, because the warnings are in force again for many parts of England, northern and eastern England, and the north of Wales. And it's windy to boot. So I suppose the brightest weather across England and Wales is going to be across southern Wales, southwest England, eventually the southeast. But there are showers following the main rain band. But that rain band is ground to a halt across the north of Wales, northern England, North Midlands, East Anglia, parts of the southeast. So we'll just see another 20 to 40 millimetres quite widely falling today on already saturated ground, with over 50 flood warnings in force. And it's really quite murky as well. The big bridge is quite poor, with lots of spray and standing water. So not a great start to the working week. For Northern Ireland, there's some rain around it as well, in the west and in the east, some dry weather in between, but clearly it's quite cloudy. And for Scotland as well, we've got a rash of showers just straddling the central spine of Scotland, pushing its way a little bit further west with the time. But the north should see some good spells of sunshine, and temperatures here 14 degrees, probably the best for sunshine north of Scotland. But with the rain elsewhere, 12 or 13, if we do see the sunshine in the south and the west of the UK, England and Wales, we'll see 17, possibly 18 degrees Celsius. But it's windy. It's windy as well. We've got strong winds blowing around across England and Wales, particularly southern England and east England. So wind and rain today.
Dark skies, rain over Old Trafford from where I'm sitting, Ellen. Maybe telling us something. Now, looking ahead this afternoon, there's some work.
Captain Notorious Teddy Devine.
Search for Mystery, a brand new series from Lucy Worsley. Welcome to the world of thieves, and hoaxes and conjuring.
They wanted better lives, wanted opportunity.
Investigating infamous women from the past.
Lord Darling, and the Queen of England.
Come reread a riddle of Miss Caraboo. Lady Swindlers with Lucy Worsley.
I am shocked and appalled. You're not right.
Starting today at 3:30 on Radio 4 and BBC Sounds.
This programme, an interview with Hillary Clinton, which is coming up, and also James Graham on the
With Michelle Hussain and Nick Fox. Good morning. It's 8 o'clock on Monday, the 13th of September. The headlines this morning: the Israeli military has carried out more airstrikes in Lebanon, widening its operations against the militant group Hezbollah, and with attacks in Bekaa and in the east of the country, as well as in central Lebanon. In the last hour, it's been revealed that quite a bit of the UK economy is weakening from previous reports. The UK is set to stop using coal to generate electricity. The last power station of its kind is about to shut down. BBC News is read this morning by James Steele.
Israel has widened its operations in Lebanon with strikes on eastern Lebanon overnight, hitting positions of the militant group Hezbollah. The Israeli military said its air force had attacked rocket launchers and weapons storage sites in the Bekaa Valley. Another group, the Popular Front for the Liberation of Palestine, said three of its leaders had been killed in airstrikes in central Beirut. Lebanese authorities say 1 million people have now been displaced by the conflict. And Middle East correspondent Hugo Bashega sent this report from Beirut.
Israel seems to be expanding its campaign against Iranian-backed groups in the Middle East, stoking fears of a wider regional conflict. Overnight, an apartment building was hit in Beirut's Kola area, a mainly Sunni Muslim part of the city. This appears to be the first Israeli airstrike in Beirut beyond Hezbollah's base in the southern suburbs. The militant group Popular Front for the Liberation of Palestine said 3 of its leaders were killed. This came after Israeli airstrikes on infrastructure used by the Houthis, the city of Hodeida in Yemen. Here in Lebanon, the health minister said more than 100 people were killed in attacks yesterday, as the Israeli military said it had struck Hezbollah positions in the south and in the eastern Bekaa Valley.
Revised figures show that the economy grew by slightly less than previously thought over the spring. The official national statistics average GDP increased by 0.5%, and April and June revised down from the initial estimate of 0.6%. More details with our chief economics correspondent Josh Ingram.
The next quarterly performance in services, including retail and car manufacturing, than first estimated over the spring on the previous downgrade. But a slight revision to growth may not influence policymakers at the Bank of England or those preparing forecasts for next month's budget, but it will reinforce the Chancellor's emphasis on building prosperity. The UK has, on average, expanded at a slower rate over the last 15 years than prior to the 2008 financial crisis, meaning households may be thousands of pounds worse off than they could have been.
The UK will pass an historic landmark today when the country's last coal-fired power station closes at midnight. Ratcliffe on Shore and Nottinghamshire has been generating power for the last 56 years. When operations end, the UK will become the first major economy to fully phase out coal. Climate editor Justin Rowland.
The UK pioneered the use of coal to generate electricity for public use when the US inventor Thomas Edison opened the world's first plant in Holborn in London in 1882. In the 142 years since then, this country's coal plants have burned through some 4.6 billion tonnes of coal, creating 10.4 billion tonnes of CO2 emissions, more than most countries have ever produced from all sources. The UK's phase-out of coal, the most polluting fossil fuel, has been made possible by the rapid rollout of renewable power, particularly offshore wind, backed up by gas and nuclear generation.
The final blast furnace at Britain's biggest steelworks in Port Talbot will cease production today. It brings to an end over a century of traditional steelmaking in the town. A new electric furnace will eventually replace it. The move means more than 2,500 Tata employees are being made redundant across the area. Wales correspondent Hall Griffith.
Today marks a huge shift away from the old coal-fired method of making steel towards new, greener technology, which Tata says will reduce carbon emissions at the site by 90%. However, it also triggers an enormous cut in the workforce, with 2,800 posts being closed and many local businesses fearing for their future. The new electric arc furnace, which will be in place for at least 3 years, will recycle scrap steel and won't require the same number of staff. A similar shift is planned at the British Steel site in Scunthorpe, where the blast furnaces remain in use, while the company discusses its decarbonisation plan.
£1.2 billion to fund the whole rise. House prices and mortgage companies in the UK are at their highest in 2 years. The figures from the lender Nationwide and the Bank of England suggest the housing market is bouncing back after a relatively slow year. Our cost of living correspondent Kevin Beatty has the details. The Nationwide Building Society says UK house prices rose at an annual rate of 3.2% in September. This says greater demand from buyers was the result of incomes going up and mortgage rates falling. Terrace homes have seen the fastest price growth in the past year. Figures from the Bank of England show mortgage approvals for house purchases rose to their highest level since August 2022, just before the mini-budget during the premiership of Liz Truss. The UK housing market, a key sector in the wider economy, has been in the doldrums, but this data has led analysts to suggest a revival is underway. They believe activity in the housing market will continue to pick up owing to predictions of further interest rate falls. Yes, the housing market differs significantly on a local level. The Nationwide's data suggests property prices are rising faster in northern England than in the south, and fastest of all in Northern Ireland. The billionaire Mike Ashley has launched an £83 billion takeover bid to struggling luxury handbag maker Mulberry. His Fraser Group, which owns Sports Direct and Flannels, already has a 37% stake in the fashion brand, which warned last week it needs to raise more than £10 billion to secure its long-term future. In the city, the 100 share index ended the day down 84 points at 8,237. On Wall Street a short time ago, the Dow Jones was down 102 points at 42,212. On the currency markets, the pound is trading at $1.34 against the euro. Sterling is at €1.20.2, and that makes the euro worth 83.2 pence. After 4 months stranded in Belfast, passengers on a 3-year round-the-world cruise are finally ready to set sail. The Villa-Lee Residence's Odyssey was supposed to leave at the end of May, but encountered problems with its rudders and gearbox, causing major delays. Passengers are not being allowed to sleep on board, with some returning home to the United States and elsewhere, but now they've been told to board the ship. Our Ireland correspondent Chris Page has more. The
Passengers on this round-the-world cruise haven't been dreaming of drizzle. So far, they've had only one stop in 4 months, Belfast. But now, the Villa V Residences Odyssey is said to be ready to head for the high seas. After 120 days of delay, dozens of people are set to begin life on the liner. Among them is Donna Martinucci in Colorado.
I had a really hard time sleeping last night. I'm super excited, feeling the butterflies, feeling the heart rate going up, you know. So it'll be fun.
So this is the 30th of September. You have planned to board the ship on the 30th of September, though not in Belfast, is that right?
That's exactly right. I was supposed to be in Nassau boarding the ship today.
In the Bahamas.
In the Bahamas.
It's a little bit different, some would say.
Yeah.
Northern Ireland was uncharted territory for almost all of the would-be seafarers. They've made the most of visiting local tourist attractions, exploring family routes, and going on road trips. Wade Rand from Chicago will take one particular memory on the global journey.
One of the things I really love about Belfast is the way that I say my name. So, you know, in American English we say Wade, but in Belfast they say something like Wade. And I can't say it that way, but I recorded the video recording yesterday, which I was saying it. That's going to be my new ringtone. It's the Belfastian Wade.
A lasting legacy that will travel the world with you.
Yeah, that's right.
Buses have picked up the passengers from the houses and hotels where they've been staying and brought them to the quays. But the ship is still in a repair yard across the harbour, more than 3 hours after it was scheduled to dock here at the cruise line terminal. It isn't plain sailing just yet.
The headlines again. US media is reporting that Israel is about to send ground troops into Lebanon. The deputy leader of Hezbollah has insisted its fighters are ready to confront any Israeli invasion. More than a century of traditional steelmaking in Port Talbot has come to an end after the last blast furnace was shut down. The BBC has apologised to the actress Amanda Abbington and upheld some of her complaints against her 2023 dance partner on Strictly Come Dancing, while it cleared Giovanni Pericci of the most serious allegations. Medical leaders in the UK have called for an independent review of the use of physician associates in the NHS in England. BBC News.
Presented by Alan Smith. The actor David Oyelowo will be telling Front Row what it's like to play a tragic hero, and the illustrator Ralph Steadman has the lowdown on political cartoons. That's coming up at 7:15. And at 8, how do we make every vote count? With smaller political parties in the UK saying the system is unfair, Rethink will be asking, is a better way? Now there's no room for hesitation, repetition or deviation. Just a Minute is coming up in a moment. On BBC iPlayer.
Where's James? The brother spent day in and day out at some grisly murder scene, however.
Until 3 nights ago, when he didn't come home at all, when his twin goes missing.
James didn't just vanish. He left breadcrumbs, coded messages.
Can a puzzle setter solve the biggest conundrum of his life?
I'm impersonating a police officer.
Yes, but he's a brother.
That's really not the legal loophole you think it is.
Starring David Mitchell and Anna Maxwell Martin. Ludwig.
Bit awkward, really. I think I might just have solved a murder.
Watch on BBC iPlayer. It's time now for some comedy on Radio 4 with Sue Perkins.
Welcome to Just a Minute. Joy it is as a minute pause fades away to welcome you back to Just a Minute. Time, of course, to introduce you to the 4 incredibly talented people who are going to be playing the game this week. They are Josie Lawrence, Julian Clary, Kyle Smith-Fino, and Jenny Clare. Please welcome to see all 4 of them. Oh, I like you guys. I'll be asking them all to speak on a subject that I give them for 60 seconds without hesitating, deviating, or repeating. So let's see how that goes. And Josie, we can start with you. Now, the subject is the memory of a goldfish. Can you speak for 60 seconds without hesitating, repeating, or deviating on the memory of a goldfish? Starting now.
The Memory of a Goldfish by me. I was 6 years old and I was travelling there in
So I hooked the duck and won the prize. We put the goldfish in the sink. The next day, Dad went out and bought a glass bowl, a little tiny fridge, a castle, and of course we put water inside. Do goldfish drink, Jenny? I don't know. I love my goldfish though. I thought if each time he went around their diameter of his home, would he forget about me? Because the memory of a goldfish is meant to be very short indeed. But apparently it is all a myth. They've run experiments, and goldfish do have long memories. They can set them on a roof.
That was an amazing way to start the show. So, you were speaking as the whistle went, which means you get the point, and of course you get an extra point for speaking for the full 60 seconds. Julian, we are with you next. Have you ever gone this far north, I wonder? Your subject is John O'Groats. 60 seconds starting now.
Oh yes, I've been to John O'Groats. Very blurry up there, and I have to say the gay scene is absolutely awful. I was reduced to hanging around the gentleman's latrine of home base. But I did set out one day to walk from John O'Groats to Land's End, wearing slingbacks, and I got as far as the Midlands, and I missed John so much, I headed right back there. Oh, it's very craggy, and there's a famous house that John O'Groats himself built. It's got 8 doors because he had that many sons, and they didn't get on with each other, so they all had to have a separate entrance, if you know what I mean. Some audiences, that laugh where would have got a laugh, but seriously, the jelly hesitation.
Oh, and this one's tiny bit.
Tiny, yeah, but that's why I did it.
Because there can't be that many seconds left. You do really well. You are doing incredibly well. There's a tiny bit of hesitation, I'll give you that. I don't like to, because I would have loved to know. I'm not going to play like that anymore. Just this one go. Clean start, and then one stop point, relax. Well, let's see if you relax, because you've got 17 seconds on John O'Groats. Okay, and well, you wanted it, and now you've got it. I was in 2 minds, because there's only a bit of hesitation there. All right, 17 seconds starts now.
There was a boy in my school, and his name was John O'Groats. Scottish lad, bright red hair. Mother, Glaswegian, father from Inverness. They were great porridge eaters. Did very well on... Julian, is that a euphemism? It can be, Julian, it can be. You can take this subject back. I don't really want it.
I'd like a point for an amusing interruption.
We've already angered all of Scotland by implying they're all oat-eating redheads.
Yeah.
I'm going to say that was an incorrect challenge, and Jenny, you get 3 more seconds on the subject of John O'Groats, starting now.
His sister was called Jeanette O'Groats.
Josie, please end this.
I thought she said sister before, but she hadn't.
No, we heard it from the mother and the father, and I believe possibly brother. All of whom fitted neatly into the cultural stereotypes that Scots are still rightfully angered by. It's an incorrect challenge, which means, Jenny, you've still got the subject with 1 second remaining. Starting now.
John O'Groats was...
Right, Jenny was speaking of Whistle Wet, gets the point there, and we move to Kyle. Well, let's see what's going to store for you. Now, I think stylish gentlemen such as yourself find the subject. We have the perfect outfit. What can you tell us about the perfect outfit in 60 seconds, starting now?
I like to start with the shoes. I go from the bottom up, as everyone should get dressed. Socks after the bits that I put on my feet. But what I also love to do is look in the mirror whilst I'm getting dressed. The mirror's on the floor, of course, is where I'm starting.
Julian.
Repetition of mirror.
That was a repetition.
Sure, did you say mirror and mirrors?
No, I think there was mirror and mirror. I think that's Australia.
I think what Jenny said.
Further benefits of the doubt coming. This is your first game, so we shall see how it goes. There's a long way to go. 41 seconds remaining. Julian gets the correct challenge in this instance, so he takes the subject of the perfect outfit starting now.
Have you ever worn black rubber? Because it's the perfect outfit. You don't have to iron it or indeed wash it. Just rinse it under the tap. And very, very stylish.
Jenny. Very, very. That was a very, very indeed there. Yes, repetition, which means 29 seconds are all yours in the perfect outfit. Jenny, starting now.
Pyjamas are the perfect outfit. Elasticated waist. You can dress them up if you're going out with maybe a belt and some high heels, or casual style with slippers in front of the television. I like to match my PJs with whatever I'm drinking. Red flannelette for a burgundy, white satin for champagne. A nice floral pair of pyjamas is ideal.
Jenny is speaking of the whistle went, means she gets another valuable point. And you get the next subject in review, adding insult to injury. What can you tell us about that? I imagine way more than 60 seconds will allow. We'll make a start starting now.
I remember many years ago I thought who wanted to be a millionaire, and the question was, which author wrote Camberwell Music? Me, everybody. And there were 4 female comic names up on the board. The contestants looked blank, and eventually come from Mira Sayal. Chris Tarrant said wrong. It's actually Jenny Eclair. Said loud in front of the question. Then went, I'd never heard of her. Now, that was adding insult to injury if ever there was one. I'll tell you what else I feel sorry for. It's women who have a terrible accident, maybe climbing a mountain, falling off a Harley Davidson, but whenever anyone looks at a middle-aged female with a broken arm in a car, they think silly cow fell down the stairs, and Cheryl's 60th birthday party is all her own fault. That's again adding insult to injury.
Well done, Jenny. Obviously, you were thinking of whistle went, but also you spoke for an entire minute, which means you get an extra point. And that's the end of the first round, which means we get to toss up the scores. Kyle in fourth, we have Julian in third, Josie in second, and rampaging out in front, Jenny Eclair. Josie, we are back. Yes, we're back with you, my lovely. And the subject is crochet. I don't know if you dabble in the dark arts of crochet. Can you speak without hesitating, repeating, or deviating on the crochet? Your time starts now.
I'm afraid I know absolutely nothing about crochet. My thing is, if in doubt, don't sew it, just stick it, or use a safety pin. What I do know about crochet is it sounds like it's probably French, because it rhymes with touche, and souche, and jambalouche. Also, you don't have a crochet needle, you have a crochet hook. I'm looking forward to Jennifer because she's a wonderful craftswoman. I follow her on social media. She's always knitting, doing tapestry, painting, and probably she does crochet. There's no don't. Oh, that's right. There is a world line between those who can crochet and those of us who can't, and I belong to the latter. I was thinking how important I know this Jenny. I mean, she was in full flow. She was critical. You're not getting it. You're not getting it because it's not a correct challenge within the rules of just a minute. No, I'm sorry. This has gone right back to your belief that anyone should have an encyclopedic knowledge of you, whether they are on television or they see it. No, well, not anymore. But I'm sure it's always out there. Yes, I have. Okay, think about what you've already said, and say it again. earrings, crochet, but that's all I know. What else can I say about crochet? Oh, yes, please.
Been known for it. Now tell us in 60 seconds all about it, starting now.
Well, one way of sing a song, and I thought this lovely number, like frequently performed, all about butter called I Love a Knob. Well, if that doesn't get them going, I tell them a lovely story about Mira Sainow. Well, she was so popular, people were up on their knees cheering, perfectly rousing the crowd, as I see it. There are other methods, of course, of this kind of political person. You might be an orator and stand on a chair and talk about injustices, and people will get very, very angry and think of those very, very.
Oh, this Groundhog Berry. Another challenge by Jenny for exactly the same of berry. Well, listen, you've got great guns up till that point. You've only got 22 seconds remaining. There's a correct challenge now, Jenny, so you get the subject, which to remind you is rousing the crowd. Any time starts now.
I only have one trick that really works rousing the crowd, and that is showing my knees. They are hilarious. I inherited them from my father. Idiot turnip capings that belong in an allotment. Whenever I feel my crowd drifting away, I go, well,
I haven't said anything in a while. Sort of doing that.
Yeah, I did it.
Yeah.
And then I'm going to give you a point for it, so there you go. Just really enjoyed it. And also, did you have a challenge within the rules, or just you wanted to just say hi?
Yeah, just looking to let everyone know we're here, and I look forward to the deviation going in for most of the gardens.
Yeah, I mean, we have to take Jenny's word for it that she has turnips. Understand to rouse the crowd. Jenny style. Can I get the bonus points? And you've got 1 second remaining. Rousing the crowd starting now.
I think I just aroused the crowd.
Well done, and you get the points for that. And we move now to Jenny. You've got the subject of hairdressers' magazines. Let's find out if you are a reader of them, or perhaps there's a quiz in them where somebody before you didn't get the answer right. You've got 60 seconds on hairdressers' magazines, starting now.
hairdressers don't tend to have magazines these days, as everyone has their noses in tablets and phones. But in the old days, they divided into three types: glossy, posh, fashion, and those horrible slag women off, where you look at close-up photographs of camel toes and sweat patches of...
Julian.
Oh, a general hesitation, breakdown of the ability to speak.
I actually choked on a tiny bit of ravioli. That's correct challenge, Julian. You've got subject 34 seconds remaining on hairdressers' magazines, and your time starts now.
Well, I see them when I'm at the hairdresser's, but I can't actually read them because you can't have your glasses on while you are having the snip, if you'll pardon the expression. But I glance at them, I look at the pictures, and you catch up, don't you, on what the royal family are up to, who they've been raving at, what events they've been. So that is vaguely interesting, but I prefer to look at myself in the mirror and check that my swallowing ability hasn't been compromised by an accident I might have had. Hairdressers magazine. You can find these on magazines for hairdressers as opposed to reading material
And Julian is speaking after Mr. West, and he gets the valuable points there. That brings us to the end of the second round. Let's have a catch up and see where we're at with the scores. In third place, we've got Kaya. Joint second, we have Josie and Julian. And out ahead, we still have Jenny and Claire. think we must now see round 3. Actress, we're back with you, and your subject is dinner ladies. Can you speak for 60 seconds without hesitating, repeating, or deviating on the subject of dinner ladies starting now?
Of course, when you say dinner ladies, so I immediately think of that wonderful sitcom by the much missed wonderful. I said it right. Wasn't it wonderful?
Yes. Julie?
Repetition.
Yes, absolutely. The correct time, Julie. 51 seconds, all yours, on the subject of dinner ladies starting now.
They were great dinner ladies at my primary school, really rough with dirty fingernails and tattoos up their neck. My favourite was Audrey, who used to tell me how she snatched her husband with a Stanley knife. Okay, you girls, bitch. Threatened her with an unfortunate tone, and ever since then, dinner ladies in my mind have become that woman. Of course, they serve food, and who can blame them for that? Their job description, and the hungry little children queue up and
Walking the beaches in the pursuit of music. Mr. Lather is teaching me to play the mandolin. Good day, Miss Mackay.
Maggie Smith in the prime of Eastern Brody, and before that The Millionaires, and Othello with Laurence Olivier. I've been talking about Dame Maggie with fellow actor and close friend Dame Eileen Atkins.